Hey, this is Paul and Scott, and we're at part 3 of the full tour here, most of the tour. And so as you can see here, this one's a little bit different than the other parts because we have mulch here, and this is actually my long-term goal, is I really want to have all the irrigation buried under this mulch so I don't have to deal with weeds. And then I have interspersed different fruit trees, rare fruit trees, mangoes, pineapples, some ornamentals as well, bananas. So this is a kind of a complete section, as you can see. So starting off here, we have Leo Manuel's Yala X. It actually has a beautiful fruit on it, as you can see. Look at that, nice winter fruit. And this is a Yala seedling that Leo Manuel grew out, and it produced a delicious fruit. Hopefully you've seen our review on it, and it's a really happy, healthy, unique looking plant. Next to it, it shares space with Axe, which is an Asunta cross that Gray Martin has saved. So that's Axe. It's doing quite well. Here is Leo Manuel's original American Beauty. It's a really old plant, and hopefully you saw our Weird Fruit Explorer collaboration where we sent a bunch of fruit, Wallace Ranch and we did, and this plant produced the winner. So he felt that American Beauty was the #1 fruit that he tasted out of the selections we provided, and this is the plant that produced it. It's an old plant. Right here we have one of my Orahona seedlings. This is seedling 7. I actually have an off-season fruit. I'm gonna evaluate it. I'm not gonna film this one, I'm just gonna eat it just to try it.
Nice size.
It's a nice size, but again, it's off-season. The thing I don't like about this seedling here is it does get a bit of pathogens here. You can see there's some cactus rust, things like that. See this here, that's pretty bad. But I also think that's caused because it's getting too much shade here. So I actually had to trim out my palm trees a few weeks ago, trying to get more sunlight, but I'm evaluating this one carefully and I'm excited to try that fruit. So that one has a few sisters here. I'll show you in a second. This one actually, really quick, I should show you. This is Benoit Red. And as you can see, I have it near American Beauty because some people say it's the same thing. So we have that. We have a Super Sharon here from Three Lucky Mountains that a friend gave me or we traded. So Super Sharon, we'll try that one. Over here is another Orahona seedling. It hasn't fruited yet. This is Orahona seedling number 6. So the sister to the last one I showed you, I actually just have it growing under this plant. It's really healthy here. Getting a bit too much shade in this spot though. Here's a different seedling that we evaluated the fruit. This is seedling number 5. And hopefully you saw our video on that. It's a delicious fruit. And this one I grew ungrafted, straight from seed. And you can see how vigorous it is. And out of all the 8 ones that I've grown, this one to me grows the healthiest. It has the least pathogens. It's really vigorous, like I said, and produces these long, but beautiful branches and really delicious fruit. And its actual mother is right behind you, Scott. Here is our Orahona. So we grew seeds from this plant, and you might say, well, why is it so small? Well, that's because we grew it in compost. It was in Fox Farm soil, and every winter this plant would rot, and it almost died last season. So I cut it, took 2 last cuttings, and started again. So this plant at one time was a large plant that just could not take the full sun and the compost soil. It's very sensitive. So luckily its offspring are more resilient than the mother plant. Moving on, here is Paul Thompson's 3S, which he renamed Delight. This one's really special to me because it's Leo Manuel's and it's 3S, so it was never named as Delight. And you could actually see, look at how old this plant is. Look at that old stem. And it almost was dead when we got it at Leo's, and I cut it back severely, and look at it now. It's just gorgeous, really healthy. So Paul Thompson's 3S, he named it Delight. This one is another 3. This is Don Burnett's 1-3. I have 2 of them. And this one, I've given the name Honesty. And so it hasn't fruited yet, but I've shared it for free for several people. And my whole wish or goal, hopefully, is that this one will always be free for people to share. I thought that'd be kind of cool. So we'll see how it goes. So Don Burnett's 1-3 Honesty. I have 2 plants. I'm really excited to see it fruit this season. Here is Namibia Orange. I've learned a lot about this plant over the years. It's actually Paul Thompson's number 40 in his book. So Namibia Orange, it has an interesting story I've traced back a bit, and it actually does come from a French restaurant that was in Namibia, and then it was brought here to California. And it's been here since the, I believe, late 80s. So a really old variety, Namibia Orange. Here is a really cool seedling, a Caslau seedling I've grown out. Hopefully it will fruit this season, and it's really, really healthy. So Caslau seedling. Over here we also have Leo Manuel's Bruni, which you can see Bruni thinks it truly is spring or something. It's got epic growth here, and it's mixed in with Cinnaspinus. So I have both in here. Cinnaspinus is a rather mild variety, but I really like it just because of the spineless characteristics, and it tastes kind of like a mild cherry, but definitely not my favorite variety to grow, but a decent fruit. Let's see what else do we have over here. We have a couple of my own hybrids, just extra seedlings. They're a G3 crossed with PG. And I actually jokingly call that one hypodermic because it makes one really long thorn. If you want to see it here, Scott, if you can see, this plant is a unique seedling. Sure. And you can see here, don't mind this mess here. I have some other George Emmerich plants I'm taking care of here. We'll talk about another time. But you can see here, it just generally makes this one long thorn.
Oh, yeah.
And so this is a G3 crossed with physical graffiti. And so I have a whole trellis over there. It hasn't fruited yet, and I didn't know what to do with all the extra cuttings. So I have like 8 cuttings in this, just growing under this beautiful Haas avocado. And like I said, we're not going to talk about some of George Emmerich Jr.'s plants. I have in the other episodes, so just skip over those. These are in Fox Farms, and I'm changing the potting soil hopefully today. Now the last part of this section is 2 varieties that I'm really excited about. One looks a lot like Sugar Dragon, and it's an unknown cetaceous we found at Exotica Nursery really early on in our dragon fruit journey. In fact, hopefully, Scott, do you remember when we went in that old greenhouse?
Yeah.
This is the plant that we found.
Oh, okay.
So there's that one, and then the Sairong's Orange Dragon, which I've talked about before, but I'm really excited to try this beautiful fruit here.
Dang,
it's been on there since October 9th. So 3 months, and hopefully it'll be ripe soon. It's just popping a few thorns here. So that's interesting. This is a Megalanthus hybrid, and it's gonna have really small seeds. It's gonna be an orange skin, white flesh inside, really sweet. So I had one fruit last season. I'm really excited to try that one this season. So this is just part of section 3 here. Let's go down the hill so I can show you all the new changes that we've been making since you've seen our part 2 video. Okay, so here's the newest section. I just built these, and I'm actually kind of upcycling. Kind of reminded me of Robert, kind of inspired by Robert, one of the growers we visited. And what I did is I have these old fence posts here, and all I did is I drilled holes and used some old rebar, and then I found some rebar caps so I wouldn't get hurt and I won't get hit. And I've turned these into trellises. You can see I wrapped up a bunch of burlap. So this is my I guess my bad child section, my section of that I'm not gonna focus on these ones. I can't kill them, but they're not high ranking on my flavor, or I predict that they're not gonna be that good. So I have a lot of white flesh George Emmerich plants here. These are 1 and 2, you can see. Here's a really unique Ocamponus that actually got a little damaged in the frost here. And this is the coldest part of the yard, by the way. But you can see this is one of GE's number 3, and this is a really unique Ocamponus. I can't get it to fruit. I've had this thing for 4 years. So hopefully it lost its trellis, and I'm gonna keep it here to evaluate. So you can see, you just keep moving down. We have a bunch of dragon fruit. Some of these I actually just repotted. Here's a good example of why you shouldn't actually repot during the off season. You can see this thing's getting blasted by the sun and the cold, and I'm gonna lose these branches. But I knew that was coming into it. It's gonna be fine. But again, you can see here, I just have so many plants. I mean, we have hundreds of varieties, and I don't have the time or the ability to trellis all of them. So this is kind of just my evaluation section. And it's a really far away part of the yard where I can just have it down here. They're gonna be sturdy, and you can see it just goes on and on. I have so many varieties. These are Enzo's, mislabeled ones from Elk Creek Dragon Fruit, San Lorenzo, George Emmerich Jr. plants, mislabeled ones. Here's some Sabra, and here's an Ocamponus. So just a bunch of different ones that I've labeled really meticulously. You can see here I used metal labels on all of them and labeled the plants because I don't want them to get mixed up. So this was the incorrect Pride of Fallbrook, the one I got from the source, but it's the wrong one. So you can see I just have kind of a lot of the plants in their kind of timeout list here. And you can see they actually are getting kind of damaged, and they're not getting the care they should, but they're gonna bounce back and do fine. So I'm just gonna continue and put all the kind of unknown, no ID plants I'm not sure of, and just continue down this whole row. So that's kind of what I'm doing this winter. And let me go show you some more changes that we're making here. So hopefully you saw this. This is part 1 of our tour. And notice this is where Mr. Wu was, and now that giant Mr. Wu with the mega bloom is gone. And I know it was a very productive plant, but that fruit is just okay for me. And when we grow so many varieties, Mr. Wu just didn't make the cut. I need the trellis space. So I pulled Mr. Wu and I replaced it with this here, something much more unique. This one here on this side is a Puerto Rican undatus from a grower named Gabriel, and he grew some seedlings, and this white flesh is brixing at 20 in the 20s. So I have 2 sister seedlings, so I replaced Mr. Wu with something hopefully that's gonna taste better. I also replaced this, I had an unknown Elk Creek, hopefully you remember seeing that, and now I'm replacing it with some of our fancy plants from the Puerto Rico. This one is Caprice Sun. So some of these newer hybrids from Puerto Rico, it's actually got, oh look, it got a little bit of damage here in the cold, which is good to know, but the plant's doing fine. And then, to be fair, I did just plant this plant here in December. So I transplanted this in December, and you could see I'm not protecting them. I was able to get the roots in there really carefully, and then I did wrap it, like you can see here. I wrap, whenever I transplant plants, I'll wrap them up with burlap for a few weeks, and then I'll take it off. So even this plant has been replaced. This was Edgar, a red flesh variety that just tastes okay, and I replaced it with Pipes Red. So you can see here, it's kind of like the Game of Thrones here, I guess, in a sense, to where if they don't make the cut, they get removed. So we're gonna continue on our mission and quest to find the very best varieties for growers to enjoy, and in my opinion, the best tasting ones, and we'll get rid of the ones that are not. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed our grand tour. This is part 3. Hopefully you saw the other 2 parts. Have yourself a great day. Thanks for watching. Take care.